For me, this whole thing started at home. My mother was a jazz singer, was a soloist. One of my uncles was a drummer, and my other uncle was a bass guitarist. So as a child, I grew up in that background, but at the same time with a very political grandfather who most of the time was in and out of home because of getting arrested and stuff like that. But there was always this singing culture, not necessarily acting. But I remember as a child, my mother on stage, there was a play that was performed in Langa, where I come from. And it was just so amazing. I don't know where the picture is. It would be nice if I found that picture. It was so amazing. I saw these people dressed in like the American slaves during those times, and the stage was there were streamers, different color streamers hanging, and all of them having their hands up like that, singing. It was always a beautiful, beautiful image. So, and then again, during the time that I was, in high school, there were plays that came from Johannesburg, because we didn't get those things in Cape Town. So it was the times of Gibson Kente. Gibson Kente cast used to come to Cape Town, and as a young person, go and see those shows. And I was so charged up by seeing all those things. And my aunt ran a shebeen. She was one of the best shebeen queens in Langa. So the Gibson Kente cast, after the show, they'd come to our place. And you can imagine, in the small room filled with artistic people, talking at the same time, smoking and singing and all that. So there was always this thing I was surrounded by. But I come also from a home of nurses or musicians. So for me, it was either or. But then at 20, I got pregnant. I had my child. And then I had to work. So this one afternoon, I'm coming from a shift at the St. Monica's Maternity Hospital. I was coming down the hill. It's in Boerkap. I'm sure you've come across Boerkap. So I was coming down the hill, walking down and going to the Cape Town station via Long Street. And at the corner, I saw this banner saying Actors Wanted, Space Theatre. And then it gave the address. So I thought, it says auditions. What is an audition? Okay, let me go via there and just ask whoever's there, what is an audition? And then they told me, no, we're looking for actors for this play and whatever. And Fatima Dike had written the play. So that was my debut in theatre, acting in Fatima Dike's The Sacrifice of Kheli, it was called. So I got there, I was told what to do that, do this, blah, blah, blah. And I did it, and they said, come by during the week to find out if you've succeeded or not. And I came by, and I was, part of the cast. So that was my initiation into theatre. I'll tell you how it went. Let's start there. At school, when you leave primary school to go to high school, there is an initiation. They ill-treat you. They make you do stupid things. They beat you up. They do all sorts of things. Yes, that's bullying, but it's part of the initiation into high school. So I remember clearly what I used to do, because I did not get bullied because I overdid things. When they said dance, I would throw my hands and dance like a mad girl. And they said, no, stop. And then they would say, sing. And then I would sing loudly, and nobody could actually get to ill-treat me because they wanted people who were going to resist. It was easier to ill-treat people who resisted. So I just did everything over the top and stuff like that. And one girl said, hold your 2 fingers on your nose like this and say, twee, twee, twee. I sing like a piano. So I went, twee, 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 I sing like a piano. I said, no, go away. So for me, that was acting. So when I went to the Space Theatre that day to audition, they said, do this. I did it. Sing. I did it. Okay, here's a paragraph. Read this paragraph and act it out. So I acted it out, and they said, no, you're a natural. You're a natural. So that for me, it was great. But walking into the Space Theatre, it was the strangest thing, because you walk up these stairs, and theatres up to now have a certain smell. There's a certain atmosphere in the theatre, and it takes you into a world that you've never been to. It makes you more curious to find out where it comes from and what puts it there, or what makes it like that. But when I went in there, it kind of felt, whew, what is this strange thing that I need to know about? There's a reason why I walked into this space. So, and then you find people like Brian Asbury, and there was Arthur. There was many people who were there, who were acting, who were doing things, and they were welcoming. It was just so beautiful. It was an atmosphere that I felt I needed to be in. There was a sense of freedom, a sense of I can do anything in here, a sense of people are great, a sense of I feel I can create something or be a part of something. Acting out there was only at school. You know, I was in a school play, I enjoyed it. Some kids I grew up with still call me Noqinile. That was the name, I was the character name in the school play. So walking in there, it gave a sense of comfort. I don't know how to call it, but there was a sense of, because of the busy street, long street, because of the animosity, because of the white people you walked past, anger, the eyes, and all those kind of things you kind of lived with. That if I walk past a restaurant with white people sitting outside, you're too scared to look at them, because what you see being dished back at you is like, why you look at me? What are you looking at, kind of thing. So it here inside there were mixture of people of all colors, you know, and laughing and doing things and joking, and it was some kind of a safety haven kind of thing. As a result, even when I wasn't working at the space, I just wanted to be in the space, you know, so I went there. And also it provided some people with accommodation. There were people who were living at the space, you know. As I said, there's a floor that had rooms. So I would spend my time there, quite a lot of my time. I actually left the hospital completely. I felt, no, I don't want to be here. I want to be this side. So there was that kind of feeling of safety. I remember Nomhle's mother, and Nomhle lived there. There was a floor that was just rooms. And then there was the last floor was, and again, another theater, a smaller theater. So this was in between. It was not the top. It was in between. There was the box office, then there was the theater, then there were rooms, and then there was another small theater upstairs. Sometimes you didn't get a bus to get back to the township. You missed your bus, so you went back to crash in one of those rooms with the people who were living there, which was nice. And Nomhle's mother used to cook. She always cooked. So you were sure to have a meal when you were up there. So it was, yeah. I actually couldn't even understand how it was done. I was going to be on stage, and that for me was the excitement. I was going to learn so many things. So Fatima, for me, was a very brave woman who sat amongst white people and wrote a script. We had Julius Ntshinga, who was directing it. He was also from East London, you know. So for me, it was just, I ventured into a world I did not know, and I was, I think, brave enough to try it out. So for me, writing was taking a book and read, or taking a play and read. But to encounter somebody sitting and writing was very first time in my life to see that happening. And the process, and how Fatima used to sit there and have discussions and talk about the script and talk about things. It was an education for me. The space was my university. I got to learn about Reli the king during those sessions. I didn't know anything about Reli the king, and my role was so tiny. in the play. So most of the time I sat and listened. All I had to do was come from the back of the auditorium, screaming down the stairs to the stage and singing and all that. That was my role. I didn't have a single line. And yet I was in that play for 8 months, doing the same thing and learning and learning and learning. So for me, everything was new. Everything was new. I think my next play was La Sustrata, South Africa. That was the play I was in next. Also, the mixing with people, because I had a role there. I played one of the wives. I played a mother at some point. I remember one challenge that I had. One actor got sick, and the play was supposed to go on. And I remember Brian saying, a play is never cancelled because somebody's sick. We can actually read that character on the day. But I'm one of those people who operate so well in their short-term memory that by the next evening I was ready to play that role. You know, by the next evening I was ready to double play the roles. So again, another challenge. And all these challenges kind of get exciting and you want to do more and more. You want to do. You know, I think those kind of plays and the tactics that were being used was great in the sense that you were able to say things you wouldn't necessarily be able to say off stage. And you were sending out messages that you felt South Africa needed to hear. You know, so for me, those were the important elements. That was the education that I was getting as well, of being able to be free enough to say things and be protected because you're on stage. I don't know how to describe that, but the stage tends to give you a kind of dare moment. I dare you to. I dare to do. You know, it's that kind of thing. And for me, most of the time, I love reactions. I still thrive on reactions. I love seeing people react to things. So I enjoy those jab moments, you know, the jab, and you see how the person takes it or how your audience reacts to those kind of things. But these plays were written in such or adapted in such a way that they were incorporating the life in South Africa at the time. I think most plays do that, meaningful plays do that. You connect with your audience, you send that message to your audience. What was great about being at the space was the different kinds of people who came to the space and got those messages. People who would not necessarily sit at the Nico Malan, where I'm sitting now, to go and listen to those messages. And what was exciting again was knowing that these people will go out and spread the word. I saw this kind of play. This is what those kind of plays created some dialogues all around. People were talking about it. That's why the special branch always tried to close down the space. It's because people were getting those messages either way. During those times, if there were members of the special branch in the audience or within the building, you could actually smell them. You'd spot them from afar. There was a way they carried themselves. There was this authoritative kind of thing about them. You know, the shoulders, I'm gonna shut you down today kind of attitude from them. And because the space was a mixture of people, they felt uncomfortable in those kind of spaces. So you could actually know when they're there. I remember one time somebody came to say there's a freelance job for translating isiZulu or isiXhosa into English for a certain group of people. So I said, oh, okay, you know, tourism. We were not big on tourism then. And then they said, they gave me an appointment, how much I was going to earn. I was to go to the Labia Theatre. Then I went to the Labia Theatre and I found myself sitting with a group of special branch men. and they were going to watch a film that was done in Johannesburg, a black movie. So they needed someone to translate what was happening so that they could edit and cut out whatever, swear words and whatever. That was the brief that they were giving me as I'm sitting there with them, that we need to know if there are swear words, we need to know if, you know, they talk about the government, we need to know. I said, all right, okay, let's do this thing. So I sat with them and I was okaying everything and laughing. I was the only one laughing there. And every time I heard these things, I would just laugh it off so that they wouldn't even think that there's something wrong. It was just a joke. So I thought, okay, that was a nice way of earning money, to get the special branch to okay a movie that they would have chopped off the circle. So it was that kind of thing. You knew when those people were there. You felt them. No, I was very much aware of those kind of things because of my grandfather. You know, my grandfather, every other 6 or 8 months, he would be in prison and stay away from us for 3 months and then come back. And, you know, but as children, you are not told that the special branch has taken him or things like those. So I was always aware. But one thing I'm aware of, or was aware of quite heavily, was fear. For some reason, I used to be so scared, and fear drives me to do things. Fear pushes my energy. It makes me do things I wouldn't normally do. So I used to go into those areas. I remember here, it was the Nikomaland then, I read in the papers that they were going to be doing a play, and this play had a black woman in it. So I came here to make an appointment with the manager or the CEO or whoever sat on top. And I said, I hear you're going to be doing a play with a black woman. I'm here to audition. You know, Space Theatre had given me that kind of education a lot, so I knew exactly what to say, and I had the language and everything. And this guy says, well, we're not casting yet. So I say, yes, you're not casting yet, so can you put my name down? Well, we use students. So I said, the University of Cape Town does not have a black student whom you can use. I'm an actor. You can come and watch me at the Space Theatre. I'd like to audition for the play. And they said, no, okay, we'll get back to you. You can leave your details. So after a week, I came back. I said, I've been to the post office so many times waiting for a letter from you to say I must come and audition. When am I auditioning? But it was like they didn't know what to do with me, and they didn't know where to look, they didn't know what to tell me, and I realized that this is not a black space. So when I was at the Space Theatre, that's where I'm supposed to be. But those barriers need to be broken. We need to be in this building. I remember one time I was in a 10 o'clock play in the morning. No, lunchtime. There was a lunchtime production that I was doing. There was a 5 o'clock production that I was doing. There was an 8 o'clock production that I was doing. And there was a 11:30 at night that I was doing. All in one day, different scripts. So I don't know. I think for me, it was just exciting that I'm finally on stage and I have people watching me and I'm talking to people and I'm connecting. So I was also, the space gave you that kind of thing that says you can do anything, you can do it. You know, here's a platform, you can do it. So I think I pushed myself so much, also because I hadn't studied acting. And I had people like Richard E. Grant, in the space, and they were willing to share. Fiona Ramsey, Claire Stopford, they were willing to share their notes because they were at the University of Cape Town then. There were students there then. So for me, it was, that's why I'm saying the Space Theatre was my university. Ooh, no, I didn't think of that. What is rest? I didn't. The only time I laugh about it, the only time that I felt I actually needed to pull back, I'm doing too much, was when I did Pettyhurst, and at the end of the week I earned 20 Rand. And 20 Rand could only give me a weekly bus ticket to Langa, between Langa and town. And I had a child. I'm thinking, I left a permanent job to come and earn 20 Rand? Where is this taking me? But then again, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, you go to the Space Theatre because that's where you want to be. Whew, it's a hard one. You're right. It's a very hard question. I think it's being able to give. For me, I come from a community. I came from a community that did not have a voice, and the stage for me was giving me that opportunity to tell my people's stories, to become what they would have loved to be, to send the message to whoever would listen and hopefully would pass on. I'm a developmental kind of person. I love it when people develop, because I develop myself all the time. I never stop. So for me, I think it was that sense of, this month I told 400 people about the people of Langa. Oh yes, yes. That woman never stops. That woman is what can I call it? She's an activist. She's an art activist. Fatima, to anybody who'd stop and listen, would talk about theatre, would talk about acting, would talk about writing, which are some skill that she readily gives. She loves to teach people to write, get people to document their own stories. She was very influential to all of us, the cast of The Sacrifice of Kheli. Still doing it. She's still doing it. Fatima Tike lived in Langa. So the community of Langa knew Fatima Tike. Because whenever you be at a bus stop with one person, Fatima will make conversation and talk about this. Every chance she gets. And she calls me Ntangam, I call her Ntangam, and she always claims that she's much older than me. Ntangam means same age, and I always say, Ntangam, man, we're older together, so which is nice. But whenever she gets a chance, sitting with Fatima Tike is always a beautiful lesson, beautiful lecture. She gives. She's got so much information and she readily gives it.
She gave it to us yesterday.
Yeah, she's amazing. Most of the black people who came to the space came through Fatima Tike. Most. No, did she speak about the 4 twins? Yeah, there was a play that we performed in the rehearsal room. Actually, I think that was my second play. Coming from Joburg, after Joburg with The Sacrifice of Kheli, she wrote The 4 Twins. And yeah, we performed that in the rehearsal room at the Space Theatre. It was about how different people reacted to each other and perceived each other's beings and continuing to question these 4 women, the informing each other about their journeys or something like that. But I think that was the second play, I think. I think it depends with each actor. I think each actor takes their own journey differently. I'll make an example of Miss Julie. I performed at the Riverside Theatre in London as well with Miss Julie. I played the part of a maid, a maid who looked after the master's daughter growing up with her own son, and having to do all the duties and watching the son grow and worrying about when he grows up, and watching the son getting attracted to the white woman and knowing the consequences and all that. Playing Miss Julie, I actually could not even believe it myself, that for 2.5 years, I could cry on stage every day without fail. Because I think that came from my experiences of watching how the rural people lived. My grandparents come from Kirkwood. It's a rural area. So at some point of our lives, we were all taken, all the grandchildren went to be brought up in Kirkwood and all that. But watching the people, how they related to the masters, how they called the masters' children Klein Mrs. and Klein Baas, when they called Baas and Mrs. to the parents, and how they were treated, and how they were even raped without realizing that they were being raped by the masters, how the madams ignored their own children, getting the maid to bring up their own children while they're busy doing other stuff. So I think Christine, the woman I played, drew from what I learned as I grew up in Kirkwood. And it was painful then. It's still painful now when I think about it. So I think for each actor and for each production, you draw the character from a different space within your body. It depends. You know, it's different for all of us. It's very different. I knew I was doing something meaningful. I was doing something very, very meaningful. I would get excited to go to work, to go to perform. And the kinds of plays that were being put on the stage were sending messages, you know. So Sacrifice of Kheli for me was getting onto the stage. It was not understanding text, understanding this, no. It was just managing to get on stage and do what you are told to do. But it's after that, when I came back, and then you were getting a role, you had to characterize, you had to go and find the person you're playing, you have to do that character Bible for yourself. Then you started learning and getting involved with text. You'd go back to the township and you would see certain things that you didn't see before yourself, that you took for granted. You know, I learned about the fact that I couldn't get to study at UCT because of my color, I would put it like that, hit me very hard, which is what made me go to Nico Malan to say, why are you not employing me? Why are you painting white people brown to be able to play a role? When I'm there, I could play the role. So I think I was conscientized a lot at the Space Theatre. It's like how can I what example can I give? It feels like a diabetic getting the right diet to be able to live healthily, if that could be an example. It feels like as an actor you need to free yourself from yourself, and by characterizing you are able to get yourself out of a certain situation, play it, and when you get back to your own body, you are healthy enough to sit back and look at it and see what it is that was holding you back, what it is that was making you unhealthy, what it is, what was the value of doing what you did, and how can I say this, what it is to become what you could have been. You wanted to be something, you wanted to be somewhere. You know, I was saying not long ago that my family doesn't have a doctor. So I feel it's my responsibility to go and study my PhD to become a Dr. Ntshinga, because the Space Theatre started me then. I never stopped studying. I studied from other students. I've never stopped studying. So I think my last thing that I can do for myself and for my family is to become the Dr. Ntshinga. That comes from releasing myself from the stage. That comes from the platform that I'm always given when I'm standing on stage and see the possibilities. It actually makes you go to lengths that you wouldn't just go to as any normal person. Young people are not getting that because our primary schools don't offer drama. We do not have drama. You go to Model C schools, It's in their curriculum, but with the black schools, it's not in the curriculum. So you don't get it when you are young. It's something that you get when you come out of high school, for that matter. Arts Cape, where I'm at now, have drama school festivals, which gives kids, especially from disadvantaged areas, to get together within the school and get a teacher to teach them, to create a play, and then come to compete, and then at least you know that somehow they get a taste of what theatre is all about. Otherwise, we do not have it. We do not have it. They're losing. By the time they come to UCT, for example, to study drama, they have to start afresh. Their peers are miles ahead of them, miles, because they studied drama. They started drama at high school. So for black kids from disadvantaged areas, it's a hard area to venture into. When I worked at the University of Cape Town as a lecturer, I worked there for 3 years as a lecturer, and I helped devise a stream, community theatre stream, and a Xhosa stream, is a Xhosa stream, because I felt that our kids are asked to do poetry, when in the township we do izibongo, praise singing, which is more or less the same thing. It's a poem in isiXhosa where kids, there was such a change in our kids, because now they could present their exams in their own language, the way they can, portray their own people, instead of being locked up in a monologue that they don't even understand or hard to understand. English is not our first language. So if you expect me to perform 100% in English, you're failing me. You're failing me. You need to give me a chance to do it in my own language so you can see me comfortable in my own language. So our kids are struggling even when they go to audition to get into the University of Cape Town. For me, it was not allowing them the space to get into the university, because they have to do the monologues they've never done before. They have to come with a poem. They have to do all these kind of things that they've never encountered. But it's kids like me who felt they wanted to be actors, but not getting the kind of platform that I got from the Space Theatre. It releases so many pressures and stresses. Your body becomes your own. You kind of own yourself when you are able to do drama. And the other thing that is nice that the schools do every now and then, I wish it could be in the curriculum, is where they could teach mathematics in drama, through drama. I'm telling you, I think every kid would get 100% pass, because drama explains things, makes things easier, puts things into perspective, allows you to be yourself, and allows you to think on your feet. No, I think I left too early. I decided that I wanted to be in Johannesburg, so I left the space, I left Cape Town. So I went to live in Johannesburg, where by the time all those things came, I was away. It was a difficult decision. At the same time, it was, I think, a wise decision for me, because I could only be in so many things. I couldn't be working all the time. And I felt there were more opportunities in Johannesburg. There were lots of everything happening all at the same time. It was a very hard decision, but it was a decision that needed to be taken, to be made. He was project managing, he was coordinating, he was directing, he was fathering, he was teaching. I think Brian Asprey did everything at the space. Everything at the space. I don't think I saw him away from that role. I just couldn't, I wouldn't have imagined him away from that role. I think in my mind, he was one of the people who'd always be there for me. He would always be there, and he was always there. So I don't think I saw him any other way. I'd never saw the space without Brian.
Did you keep an ear out, when you left? Was there that sort of keep, what's happening, sort of get a sense of, you never really left? Was that sort of, did you look back and
I remember hearing that the space is changing its name. There was a revamping, and Fatima Dike and so was doing ABC. But those times, it was not cell phone times, telephone times, it was writing times. So to get in touch was, yeah, different. There were plays that came in, plays like was it Sizwe Bansi's did, and there was the group. I think what excited me was when I watched the group from Workshop 77, when they did that prison play, Workshop 71, which was led by Rob McLaren, called now Rob Kavanagh. I think Mshengu, we called him Mshengu Shabalala, Zulu-speaking white man. They came to Cape Town with that was my introduction to workshopped pieces, workshop theatre, and the performances, the play itself, the actors, everything about the play was just so good, and I think it's also one of the reasons that made me go to Johannesburg. I felt I couldn't wait for the next thing to happen. Let me go and learn something. As the space has given me a lot, but let me go and add to what I've learned from the space. So watching it, that exciting effect of people of different color sitting in the auditorium and watching a play and reacting and clapping and, ululating, and that kind of atmosphere kept me in theatre. The funny thing is that as an actor, you tend to live in a different world. You tend to be in your own sane world, which is different from the sane world out there. But because I think for me, I never had time to get too involved, because in the morning you get yourself ready, home, whatever you need to do at home, and then you catch a bus, you go to town. The township doesn't see much of you because you're busy learning. It's like a student who goes to university and lives in the res. So you're never at home to see so many changes. But 1976 hit us quite badly, because it happened during the rehearsal of the sacrifice of Clearly, and worrying about what's going to happen to the children, what happens now, what are the schools like, and all those kind of things, but never getting the chance to really go back there and look. There was tension. You could smell tension after that 1976, because while it happened in Soweto, it happened in Langa. We also have a victim. We have a child that was shot dead that day. We don't hear much about our own this side, but we also had that. And Langa was never the same after that. It was never the same. We had a different way of looking at the police. We had a different way of looking at, we tended to be suspicious of each other. You never knew who's speaking to the special branch, who's speaking to the police, and there was so much tension happening at the time. That's why I'm saying it felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a safe space. People were talking. There was no tension. People were saying things. People were discussing what was happening freely. Whereas at home, you just didn't know who you were talking to. No. For me, it was what we were doing at the time was enough. And remember, I wasn't trained in theatre, so I was in training. So when you are still learning and training, there's little time to be thinking of other factual things that are happening around you. So I never felt like that. I don't think I stayed long enough to get to that stage. Watching those kind of plays was scary. Scary in the sense that you are watching this kind of thing and you don't know who you're sitting with in the audience. You don't know if somebody's going to get up and say, switch off the lights. You don't know if the special branch is in. You just don't know who you're sitting with. But there's this excitement that there are two brave men on the stage, and those guys were so good. as well. There were two brave men on the stage and showing us, teaching us about other aspects of this dompas. You know, so I don't know. For me, when theatre hit me, it just hit me, and I just wanted to be there, and I wanted to tell the stories. I still tell the stories. I'm doing theatre with young people, developmental theatre with young people in the township. There's a play that we do. It's an issue-based play. I feel young people should talk to other young people. So we do this play. It's about the effects of the matric ball after parties. And it's raw, it's rough. But it's young people, it's information from the young people. We take it to schools so that they can see themselves what happens when they go out there. The young ones who are still going to go into matric, this is what happens when you get to those parties. So for me, the space theatre was more or less like that. It was like, here's somebody has died because of this. This is how this dompas is shutting you off so many things that you could, your human right is violated here. That the moment when the decision is made that here is the past, you are now Sizwebansi. I mean, Sizwebansi is dead now here. You take over that identity. It came as a surprise to me, and it was like, wow, the length at which we go to survive. That was the moment that hit me. One of my uncles was at the island during that time, and most of the things that were happening are stories that we had at home. So there was nothing surprising, but again, it was the brave manner in which those stories were told. That used to fascinate me. That used to just, hold me to theatre, to say, listen, you can also go and tell your stories through theatre. It felt exciting. It felt exciting that we're all going to get there someday. These guys have paved the way. I remember John Kani and Winston Chona coming to visit us in East London with The Sacrifice of Kheli and giving us a workshop and talking to us about acting, about special branch, about, giving us that kind of this is the real situation here. When it really blew out like that, very exciting for me as a young black woman. Very, very exciting. It actually said, you're doing the right thing. But like I'm saying, I come from that kind of background. People being arrested and the Mandelas being sneaked in and out of homes in Langa and stuff like that. So some things were normal in the abnormal sense for me. I worked so much with him. I worked so much. I did a few plays with Peter Derkes. I love him. I love the way he thinks. I love the way he puts things on stage. I love how brave he is to be able to poke fun at all those politicians. Not everybody can do that and succeed. Peter Derkes, when I worked with him, he writes the scripts. And you do your own research in your character. I played Sophie the maid, Vita Pesaidno's maid, which was, it's in Peter's rehearsal space, you always find laughter. You always laugh about things. You talk about things, you discuss things, and then he decides, which ones should stay and which ones should go. But it's also another safe environment where you are allowed as an actor to chip in, to put your own experiences across and to pad the character that is written. I think places like the Space Theatre started changing the Nikomalan, the government theatres. They challenged, the Space Theatre challenged the government spaces, because while they were being safe and doing their opera and that. The Space Theatre was factual and talking to the people. I don't think people who came here came for entertainment only, but when you went to the space, you went for entertainment and education. So I think a place like the Space Theatre challenged the government a hell of a lot. And the plays that were put out there on those stages challenged the communities at large. I think, I think theatre can change things. Theatre can change. When we were doing issue-based theatre, I'll call it, they called it protest theatre. When we did those kind of plays were saying things. We went abroad to preach the word about how we were treated in South Africa. I think theatre actually made people sit up and listen and say, something is wrong. Somebody's saying something here, let's listen. How best than to sit in an auditorium and learn about a country? That's why I'm saying if they were to change and say, I mean, children are running away from learning mathematics. But I think if they decided to teach mathematics through theatre, our kids will pass mathematics. We were dealing with issues. Whatever issue there was, we put it on stage. No, it was a breathing pamphlet. It was a breathing pamphlet. People were saying things. People were making people look back and see where they went wrong. People were questioning themselves about what they were doing about the situation of the country. I think the Space Theatre did such a swell job in that.